Now those marks that you put on the side to indicate where the brace is extended past there, continue those up onto the top a little bit on both sides. And then take a straight edge right across the guitar and line them up. And draw a line across the curved lining where those are. Break your pencil though. And then what we're going to do with those is we're going to notch the curved lining down about 1/8 of an inch to make a little cavity there for the brace end to fit into. So just take your saw and running on the inside of the line, create a diagonal cut such that the front of the saw goes down about 1/8 of an inch. And on both sides, don't cut into the side material, just cut on the lining. And then take a small chisel and just clean it out about 1/8 of an inch down, hopefully enough to house the brace. Okay, once you get your notches cut out, you can try and see if it fits. And it's going to fit perfectly, of course, isn't it? Yeah, right. It usually takes several kicks at this to get them to sit in their notches anywhere close to perfectly. I'm going to fit it in and make note. You may have to trim the length a bit on some of them, which is fine. And you may find the length is fine. It doesn't sit down quite all the way. In which case, just make a note of that and go back and work at those a bit more. Now, once you've got those all trimmed off so they fit in, and by the way, I find it easier to take the chisel and trim the braces off a bit rather than trying to cut the pockets deeper wherever possible. It's just easier to do. Then you'll very likely, you may have to trim back your center graft a bit to clear the head block. Do that. And then once you have everything sitting so it sits down flush and tight and you don't see any space underneath there, take your pencil and we're going to redraw the outline of the guitar onto the back with it clamped in place like that. And this will tell us where the actual guitar outline is. And then we'll take this to the bandsaw and trim it down quite close to that line. Because the next phase where we're going to glue this back on, any overhang, any significant overhang, more than 1/8 of an inch, might rip and cause problems. So trim that back as good as you can. Now, the other thing you might want to do at this point in time, if you plan on having a label inside your guitar, which usually goes right there below the sound hole, this is the time to put it on. Because it's much easier to put this on the back right now before you attach the back on the guitar. You can do it through the sound hole later on, but much easier now. Now the other thing to consider is this is your last chance to sand anything or clean up any glue squeeze out or anything on the interior of your guitar. So take the opportunity to kind of go over with a fine-tooth comb, make sure everything's to your liking before we glue the back. So I run a bead of glue all the way around the outside of this thing. And then you grab a paper towel. Now, time is pretty much of the essence while you're doing this. Now, remember how careful we were keeping the glue squeezed out all on the other steps up to this point? Now, this is where it becomes difficult, because you're not going to be able to get in here easily afterwards and clean up any. You want to make sure you get some glue down in those pockets where the braces are going to fit. What you want to do is you don't really want the glue spread out on here. You want it kind of in towards the center as much as possible. So I take my fingers in a V and run along. Make a mess. Like so. Try and get that glue towards the center. Now, having done that, and when I pop in here, you think the glue is where you've got too much glue. Take and put her on. Back first. You not lined up. Put a clamp on one side here, on where the heel lock is. Get things pressed down into their grooves. As good as possible. Make sure everything's seated. And stick a clamp up on the front. Like so. I'm just going to double those up. One on each side. So we've got one on either side of the tail block. And the head block. Like that. Then, what I have here is a big length of rubber. And I've got about 50 feet of rubber. And you want to run this all around. You can do this with rope too. You can do 100 feet of rope. And you want to get her started and then work in a pattern. 50 around the center. Pulling her tight. And then head off diagonally. So you're keeping her pulled tight, walk it around, and do the same front and back. Well, and there it is all tied up, and we'll leave that there for 45 minutes to an hour to make sure it's good and dry. And then we'll take it off, and we'll take a look inside and see how bad our glue squeeze out is.